Welcome on in, everybody, to the first inaugural episode of Kota's Fantasy Sports Cove. I am your host, Kota. Now, let me start off by just giving a little bit of information about myself. My name is Kota. I'm a host of this fantasy podcast. I'm also the host of a YouTube channel, Kota's Cove. I'll tell you all about that a little later. But basically, some of my passions include video games, movies and TV shows, and one of my biggest addictions of all, fantasy football. So I decided to finally make a fantasy football podcast. Been pondering it for a few years because I'm addicted to fantasy thanks to my buddies. So here we are. Today we're going to start with the topic that everybody seems to be talking about, the situations of the running backs. This year for fantasy football, this is one of the craziest years we've seen for the running backs. They're not getting paid. They're not getting valued at what they want. And according to, I think, Field Yates, he said this is the first year since 2000 that a wide receiver was unanimous the first draft pick. What is up, Sneaks? Appreciate you for tuning in. How you doing? Welcome to the first episode of Kota's Fantasy Sports Cove. Appreciate you for tuning in. So, first time wide receiver has been the unanimous first draft pick since 2000. That's pretty crazy. Today we're going to talk about who you should target, who you should possibly avoid, who's potentially going to be a boom for you at the value that you get him, and who are some potential busts. I hate talking about busts, but we have to go over them. There's some running backs this year where it's just you don't trust the situation. That dreaded committee word that we use. There's a few backfields that you're possibly going to want to avoid just from what we've heard in preseason from some of the teams. So let's dive right in. Let's get into it. The running back market this year, like I said, nobody wants to pay them. Nobody's valuing them, but the running backs help produce competitive offenses. Players like Jonathan Taylor, who have one of the biggest running back dilemmas going on right now, was an MVP candidate just a few seasons ago, has been playing with some booty cheek quarterbacks, is not being valued by his organization. They don't want to pay him, even though they've ran him into the ground. Jonathan Taylor is that MVP candidate. What do we do? This has impacted fantasy drafters for weeks now. Now, thankfully, he's going to hopefully find a trade partner, so his value should climb up. But depending where we see some of the ADP for this player like Jonathan Taylor could be a steal depending where you're drafting at. We're going to be looking at ADPs of a lot of these running backs, and what I'm using is based off ESPN ratings, so it might differ from other places where you're looking at ADP by a round or two, but generally they're right around the same area. So we're going to start off with picks that I like. Now, for those of you that are picking at the top half of your draft, this year I picked number 2 in a 12-team PPR draft. This is the one year where I'm probably going receiver first. I'll be completely honest. I don't like some of the top options. I mean, you got Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler. Those picks are fine if you're 1, 2, or 3. I'm completely fine with that. Christian McCaffrey's ADP right now is at 3. I'm sure a lot of people in leagues who always go running back first because there's a lot of they're going to pick him with the top pick if they have him. There's no reason not to expect that, let me take these glasses off. They're bothering me. Sorry, folks. There's no reason to not expect him to do well in a Kyle Shanahan offense. I mean, we got a glimpse of it last year. It looked fantastic. So there should be no reason to not to expect him to do well. The only thing holding Christian McCaffrey back is wear and tear on the body, injury history. I will not be drafting Christian McCaffrey if I get any chances because did it 1 year. The 1 year I did it, he ends up leaving the whole season with an injury. So I'm burned by him. Have a little bit of a grudge against Christian McCaffrey. I won't be drafting him, even though I know what he can do in a Kyle Shanahan-led offense. Next running back, we got Austin Eckler. He's ADP's at the 4 spot. If you pick Austin Eckler first overall, I don't see any problem with it. Justin Herbert loves utilizing Austin Eckler in the passing game. He's been one of the most reliable running backs the last few seasons. He's really come on. The only thing I worry about Eckler is the continued high usage of him with his frame. Like, he's built, but he's a smaller running back, and this is where you worry a lot about it, and this is why I won't go running back probably the first round. It's just injuries. A lot of these guys got wear and tear on their bodies like crazy. Guys like Derrick Henry now, they're studs, but you worry about the fall off at the price that you're going to be paying. Go Big Blue. What's up, friends? I appreciate you for tuning in. Hey, fly Eagles fly, baby. Big Blue had a good signing of Isaiah Simmons, so I will give him that. Next, this is where a lot of people are going to be excited. ADP, Bijan Robinson. I completely understand why everybody's excited for him. The chances of him being a top 10, possibly top 5 fantasy running back are very high. Personally, though, I have a bold take. I do think Jahmyr Gibbs has a better season than Bijan Robinson. Here's the reasons why. Atlanta's O-line is a little suspect. I know the prospects of Bijan as a receiver are elite. We don't really know what Desmond Ridder is, folks. If Desmond Ridder does better passing, which he should because they just had Marcus Mariota in Atlanta, and being an Eagles fan watching his preseason games, the fact that you all were even competitive with Marcus Mariota at quarterback is a testament to how well Arthur Smith is doing coaching the team. But Bijan, the hype has been so high surrounding this kid ever since the draft started coming around. We've had comparisons to LaDainian Tomlinson. I'm almost wondering if the hype is too much surrounding him this year. I mean, he's got kind of a good setup. He's got weapons. They got Drake London. They got Kyle Pitts. But what happened the last time the Falcons took somebody that was so hyped up in Kyle Pitts? It really hasn't panned out yet, fantasy purpose-wise. Very inconsistent. Yes, that has to do with a lot of the QB play, but also the offensive line isn't that good. So I would almost say just temper expectations for Bijan. He could be slow coming out. He is a rookie, but on the other hand, you also do have rookies seem to dominate fantasy in their rookie seasons. We've had, I think, a rookie in top 10 fantasy running back probably last 5 or 6 years. First one I can ever remember when I really started getting into fantasy was Kareem Hunt's rookie year. Man dropped 60 points in week 1 for me. So Bijan, I love the talent. Just where he is going, though, ADP number 8. Don't completely trust that Falcons offense. Arthur Smith does love to run the ball. And the other thing we have to remember, folks, Tyler Algier, who I am looking to target in fantasy in the later rounds as a potential handcuff, or just somebody who has some upside. Tyler Algier, don't forget about him, folks. In limited playing action last year, I think he got, over like 600 rushing yards in like 3 or 4 games that he started, and then the few touches he had sprinkled in because with Cordero Patterson. And that's another point. They didn't get rid of Cordero Patterson. So how's he going to be utilized? Cordero doesn't do that well as a primary outside receiver. They're going to have to use him there because they don't have many weapons because they lost Olamide Zaccheaus. But Cordero's still probably going to be a factor in the run game. So I would just say temper expectations a little bit. Bijan's talent level, absolutely, I completely understand it. But ADP 8 for me, that might just be a little steep, especially, like I said, you got Algier. You got Cordero still. A suspect offensive line. And we don't really know yet what Desmond Ridder is. If you do draft him, I'm sure like throughout the coming weeks as the offense starts to gel a little bit more, he'll probably be great for PPR, but just hold off on expectations. In the middle of the pack, closer towards your first round end, we have the usual suspects. We got Saquon, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb. They're going 9, 10, and 14 respectively. Have no problem with those 3. It's so weird to just start seeing like some of the running backs we're so used to start to age and start to drop. Derrick Henry, I think people are starting to get a little bit worried about all the wear and tear, the foot injury, the Titans not being very good. Brian Tannehill, if he's still the starter, not very good. We don't really know what's going to happen with them. Saquon, I do expect another big year from Saquon, though. Saquon could be one of the players you draft near the end of the first round. Might be one of the ones that help you compete and go long playoff run because the utilization he had last year under Brian Daboll was incredible for fantasy usage. Daniel Jones doesn't like to throw the ball deep very often. The receivers on the Giants, the way their weapons are is a little weird. They have so many slot receivers, no true outside guy. Darren Waller, I think, is their biggest receiver, basically, and he's their tight end. So I expect a big year out of Saquon. Utilization to go good. If he stays healthy, I think he's going to be a beast. That offensive line starting to solidify itself a little bit better. So Saquon could be one of the big booms we have this year at the running back position. Tony Pollard. A lot of people are excited about Tony Pollard. ADP of 15. Pollard's another big one. He could be a big home run hitter for Dallas this year. With the addition of Brandon Cooks on the outside, safeties are going to have to play deep because Brandon Cooks still has that speed. Tony Pollard can be very effective. If Dak truly cuts down on interceptions this year, we could see more dump-offs because Dak's trying to secure the ball a little bit more, not hang on to it as long, not try to take deeper shots. We'll see. I think Pollard's in for a big year, running behind Dallas's O-line, although they're not as great as they were years ago. Still very competent. Excited to see what Tony Pollard does, even though I'm an Eagles fan, I hate to say it. I think he's going to have a good season. Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, the two big what-ifs this year. Josh Jacobs, we do expect to come back because he's already started to come back, saying he'll be back for week 1. What are they going to do with Josh Jacobs, though? Is he going to be utilized like he was? From a Raiders fan's perspective and a team's perspective, you would hope they start to utilize him because Jimmy G isn't the quarterback Derek Carr was. Jimmy G had injury problems. Jimmy G loves to dump the ball off to running backs. What we saw with Josh Jacobs last year, if he did not have these contract disputes going on and everything was just all peachy, I think Jonathan Jacobs could have been a unanimous first overall pick this year. What he did last year receiving-wise was great. The running was incredible. He was tearing it up last year. It was so fun to watch. But we don't know what's going to happen. Same thing with Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is the biggest what-if. Coming off the injury, what his idiot owner said about the whole running back situation, which Jim Irsay, what are you thinking, buddy? Now has been told that he could find a trade partner. He has until Tuesday to find a trade partner. I'm sure the interest is real. We've had reports of the Dolphins putting in an offer. We've got 6 teams that were interested. Apparently the Chicago Bears are one of them. Jonathan Taylor, if you draft him in the first round, just be wary. Don't know how the situation is going to play out. That's just something we've never really seen happen before besides Le'Veon Bell, and we saw how that ended. Jonathan Taylor would be better off the later you can get him, I think, is better. He's going ADP 26 right now. If you could get him around that 26 range, that's kind of a steal because we do expect him to be traded. Me as an Eagles fan, I'm hoping Howie Roseman pulls the plug and does the deal to get Jonathan Taylor because that Eagles offense would just be unstoppable, honestly, if he were to go there. But hopefully Taylor is completely healed from injury. I know he's been ran into the ground a few last years, but you get him on a good team with a good O-line and decent quarterback play, Jonathan Taylor can have a massive bounce back here and rightfully go back to the top 10 running back, possibly looking at top 5 running back fantasy-wise if he does get traded. We'll see how that plays out. One of the big players that I think is the biggest boom potential this year, Jahmyr Gibbs by far. Jahmyr Gibbs, to me, is going to be possibly, stays healthy, a top 3 running back in fantasy this year. Dan Campbell loves him. Dan Campbell loves somebody, one of those kneecap biters. You're going to get playing time. The O-line in Detroit, pretty good, especially if Penei Sewell stays healthy. Jared Goff is playing up to beyond his expectations that everybody thought he would in Detroit. Dan Campbell's got that offense humming. Amon-Ra St. Brown, underrated wide receiver, if you ask me, continues to impress everybody. After week 6, Jameson Williams comes back, so you have a burner that can stretch the field. So again, boxes won't be loaded on the defense. So now you have lighter boxes. Jahmyr Gibbs' assets as a receiver are very impressive. All reports that were coming out of training camp is Jahmyr Gibbs is looking like a stud. I'm expecting Jahmyr Gibbs to do very well this year. Yes, he's also in a slight committee because the Lions also picked up David Montgomery. But folks, we just saw what happened last year between DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. They were both top 20 fantasy running backs last year in the same offense. It could be done again. And it was proven DeAndre Swift wasn't really a Dan Campbell guy. You can tell because the way his limited snaps were last year was very weird. But DeAndre Swift still showed up when he got the opportunity. Jahmyr Gibbs was drafted by this coaching staff. He's loved by this coaching staff as of right now. And I expect him to have a stellar fantasy rookie season. Like I said, my bold take this year, I think Jahmyr Gibbs has a better fantasy season than Bijan. If they're neck and neck with each other, wouldn't shock me, but I'm just expecting Jahmyr Gibbs to have a better season. He's been my fantasy crush this year for running backs. I am trying to leave every fantasy draft with Jahmyr Gibbs. Ramondre Stevenson and Breece Hall. ADPs respectively for Ramondre Stevenson's around 40. Breece Hall's around 53. That's probably dropped since the addition of Dalvin Cook. But also now we have to look at Ramondre Stevenson. Patriots signing Ezekiel Elliott. So his ADP dropped probably a little bit as well. However, I'm still expecting big things from Ramondre Stevenson. He's kind of like the James White right now of the Patriots. Bill loves him. He's going to get his touches. He's going to get his catches. Still expect a big fantasy season. If Ramondre Stevenson starts to turn into like a top 15 play every week, it would not shock me because I think he's going to still be used a lot. New England's weapons on the outside aren't the best. I think they picked up Juju Smith-Schuster. Okay. They picked up Mike Gesicki, who's injured right now. So I'm expecting a lot of two tight end formations that lends itself well to running situations, play action dumps off to the running back. Plus, I think the offense is going to look much better this year under Bill O'Brien. I don't know what the Patriots were thinking, putting Matt Patricia as an offensive coordinator. He never done it in his life. That was just, I don't know what that experiment was last year. I'm expecting it to be much better. Looking forward to Ramondre Stevenson. Like I said, think the upside is there. He could potentially be a very high running back 2, potential running back 1 value, depending where you draft him. Breece Hall. This is one of the ones where I'm both a little nervous but excited because last year I had Breece Hall. Breece Hall was tearing it up in fantasy. He was on his way to Offensive Rookie of the Year. Unfortunate knee injury. It was a pretty bad knee injury too. And then the addition of Dalvin Cook. You know, the Jets are going all in for a Super Bowl, so you know Cook is for sure going to get his touches. Both these backs are good receiving options out of the backfield. They can line up, split out wide if they need to be. Cooks offers, I think, just a little bit more as a runner than Breece does, but I think Breece has more of a home run hitting ability with his runs, depending how he looks from injury. We'll see what happens, though. I mean, they also have Aaron Rodgers, so you best believe New York's going to be slinging that pigskin a lot. And it also depends on, you know, does Rodgers trust Breece? Is Rodgers going to give him the opportunity to catch passes? From what it looks like from Hard Knocks, yeah. So we'll see what happens. But Breece and Cooks, Breece Hall is right around, let me see, he's at 53. I will take him compared to some of the other options right over there. He's right near James Conner, Miles Sanders, Alexander Madison, right around that range. I like his upside a little bit more than some of those other ones. Madison being the only one I think I would take over Breece Hall at his current ADP. But hey, if you're able to get in your draft and you somehow get Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall as a handcuff, depending how your drafts go, who knows? You never know with that. This is another player, bad team, but could get a lot of touches and a lot of opportunities. We're talking about Rachaad White from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Current ADP is going at 54. He's currently being picked up as running back number 20. Rachaad White's another one I've had a draft crush on. Last year, he started to pick it up when Leonard Fournette wasn't doing so well. This year, I think he's going to get way more touches just because Baker Mayfield is trash. But We don't know what Baker. Well, we do know what Baker is. We don't know how he's going to look in this offense. He could look like he did when he went to the Rams for the first couple of weeks. Could look like Baker that we're used to seeing out of Cleveland. I expect more running and more of a game manager role from Baker, even though they have the weapons on the outside to be utilized. I just don't. Baker's not Tom Brady, obviously. Can't trust him passing that much. Rashad White is going to get plenty of touches in the backfield. I think he'll have plenty of receiving and dump off opportunities. If really nobody else other to compete touches with him than Chase Edmonds, and Chase Edmonds, he's usually riddled with injuries throughout the year. You're usually seeing the questionable tag assigned right beside his name every week. So Rashad White's another good pickup, I think. Could help people get into a deep playoff run, staying, again, health-wise, stays healthy. And if Baker is at least competent this year and they don't go off to a horrible like 0-4, 0-5 start, potential for him to be very good. And also with the QB situation, if for some reason the Bucs have to go in tank mode, start trading away pieces like Mike Evans gets traded to contender or something, Kyle Trask comes in, more touches for Rashad White because, again, don't know what they're going to do if Kyle Trask has to come in. Don't know what his throwing ability is. Don't know if the coaching staff trusts his throwing ability, so we'll see. Now I'm going to start getting to players that I'm avoiding at all costs this year, running back wise. And first off, I'm starting off with, I really hate to say this, the Eagles backfield, folks. I'm avoiding every one of those running backs. DeAndre Swift, Rashad Penny, Kenny Gainwell. Reports coming out of camp for the Eagles is none of the beats, none of the reporters have any clue who the starting running back is going to be for week 1. We're all speculating it's DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift has the most talent out of the running back room. However, reports are Kenny Gainwell's been taking the most reps with the first team, which makes sense. He's been in the system the longest. However, we don't know the preseason games going to get us any inkling of who's going to be who and where you're getting some of these guys. I have seen DeAndre Swift go as early as the 3rd round. That's just that price point for what you might get with a true running back by committee is not worth it. I would avoid it. Let's see. We got Swift is current ADP right now is 85. He's the 31st running back coming off the board. I just don't trust him. Don't trust anybody in the Eagles backfield. Another player that I don't trust is going to be a player that the Eagles used to have, Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is in a situation where he could have a great fantasy year. Rookie quarterback, weapons on the outside aren't that prolific, especially with DJ Moore being traded. Panthers have a decent O-line, but Miles Sanders has left one of the best offensive line, if not the best offensive line in the NFL, to go to the Panthers. Miles Sanders' injury history. It's already in preseason and training camp. He's suffering a groin injury. Those type of injuries can linger. Miles Sanders has never really been healthy his NFL career, stemming from his rookie year. He's always had lingering like soft tissue muscle injuries. Those linger. They don't tend to go away. And also the biggest thing with Miles Sanders is he's never been, I think, above 15. I think his best season, which was last year, contract year, he was the 15th best running back in fantasy. Receiving numbers have plummeted from his rookie year. And I actually had a debate with somebody on TikTok about this. Miles Sanders was the best receiving option for the Eagles his rookie year. Granted, the outside weapons the Eagles had, they were boo-boo. I couldn't even remember. I don't want to remember. However, after his rookie season, his drops have went up. Yards drastically changed. And the amount of targets he got each year plummeted. I've never seen regression out of a running back like that before in the receiving department. We thought we had a nice receiving weapon out of the backfield for years to come. It never panned out. In Miles Sanders' current ADP right now, running back 22. You know what you're going to kind of get out of him. You'll have some boom weeks with him. He's probably a safe running back pick. I'm avoiding him, though, just because I've been burned by him multiple times in fantasy drafts. He's come up short. And if this doesn't really go for anything, but in the biggest game of the year, in the Super Bowl last year, Miles Sanders had 2 carries, potentially fumbled them twice. got subbed out for Kenny Gainwell. So take it as you will. He has a good situation where you think he could get a lot of usage. Injury history, receiving has gone down. I'm avoiding him at all costs right now. Another big player I'm avoiding, actually multiple, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins. For one, Cam Akers burned a lot of fantasy players last year. That Rams offensive line hasn't gotten any better. Since Whitworth left and they won the Super Bowl, it's just going downhill. It's been ugly to watch. Matthew Stafford's health. How's he going to be the rest of the season? We don't know. The receivers for them, Cooper Kupp's dealing with the injury. Van Jefferson missed a lot of time last year. It's just the health and the current state of the offense for the Rams. Along with Sean McVay contemplating retirement, we don't know the mental aspect of it when we go to fantasy football, but is Sean McVay fully 100% still there wanting to coach? We don't know, folks. He may say one thing, but could be a different thing. Aaron Donald, too. He thought about retiring. I'm avoiding pretty much anybody on the Rams right now. Cooper Kupp would be the only one I think about picking up, but as far as running back, like Cam Akers, sorry. Like, I hope he does well. I like the guy, liked his game, but he burned so many people last year. I'm avoiding him. J.K. Dobbins, just the way the Ravens' backfield is, Gus Edwards is going to get his touches. New offensive coordinator. Don't know what's going to happen with that. You expect a more traditional offense. But J.K. Dobbins, just the injuries too. Got potential, just injuries have really limited him. So I'd be scared to pick him up. Dobbins is going as running back 30 off the board. Current ADP is number 84. There's other players around that area where you can do much better. You got Dalvin Cook at 77 right now. That's probably going to climb a lot more now that he's on the Jets. David Montgomery, like I said, if Jahmyr Gibbs goes down with injury or if it's a true committee like it was last year, I'd like David Montgomery to play that Jamal Williams role, short yardage, runs up the middle, goal line carry opportunities. Think he'll perform better than J.K. Dobbins. Got DeAndre Swift at 85, just right behind him. Same situation, running back by committee. Swift had his share of injuries, but from the reports that were in camp, he's been lining up wide, getting a few passes. He's behind a much better offensive line than what J.K. Dobbins is. We'll see. And then one player that I'm also targeting, this is another one of my boom players, Khalil Herbert. Currently going as running back 32, ADP 94 overall. Love Khalil Herbert. He showed so many flashes last year when David Montgomery went down. I expect this offense to take a leap from year one to year two under Justin Fields. And even in the preseason, the one screen we saw to Khalil Herbert, he took it to the house. He has huge opportunities in this offense this year to get in touch with David Montgomery gone. Yes, they signed Deontay Foreman, but I think Deontay Foreman is more of a short yardage goal line back opportunity carrier. I think they're going to give Khalil Herbert a fair chance to be the every down back possibly, so we'll see. But Khalil Herbert's one of my players I think could potentially boom, and then I'm looking for in the later rounds to pick up. And then we're trying to get into sleepers that you might want or just who you're going to try to handcuff. One of the ones I'm looking for is Kareem Hunt, folks. I cannot believe this man hasn't been signed yet. I'm expecting him to get signed very, very soon. We'll see what happens. I have a feeling the Vikings might sign him as a backup. And if the Vikings sign him, this is why I don't really trust Alexander Mattison fully yet, just because we don't know. Like, are they going to keep the running back room the way it is? But Kareem Hunt, pick up with one of your last few picks, just, based off potential alone. What's up? Eagles Unfiltered coming through. Is that my boy Connor? Is this Max? You got Hunt going to the Vikings too? I like it. Thank you for coming through. Yeah, like if Hunt goes to the Vikings, I think his usage will be similar to Dalvin Cook. He can receive, he can run. Kareem Hunt has potential to be a great starting running back. So he doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on him because of his unfortunate situation that happened in Kansas City. Madison is injury prone. That's a great point. Got him in keeper league, didn't have much choice. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. What's up, Connor? My boy Connor. Everybody go see Eagles Unfiltered. Little spoilers. My boy Connor's going to come on here for a few episodes, so he'll be on here. You guys will get to know him. You'll get to see his amazing content. So I look forward to getting it with him. Yeah, Kareem Hunt's got to go somewhere. He's just the talent's too much. Just the way the running back market's been, it's been absolutely bonkers. Can't believe he hasn't been signed yet. Probably waiting to see if there's any more injuries happening. But after that, we got Tyler Algier. Talked about it earlier. Yes, Bijan's talent is amazing. Could be very, very great for fantasy. Tyler Algier's not going away, folks. Tyler Algier had a very good season last year. I expect Arthur Smith to still utilize Tyler Algier. Dude has home run ability, tough runner, runs angry, and the Falcons are going to need that. If Ritter doesn't pan out as a passer, they're probably going to go to run happy offense. Arthur Smith loves to run the ball, loves to run play action. I expect Tyler Algier to be incorporated in that. Exactly. This is exactly what I'm thinking. Falcons going to run the ball a lot, especially with Ritter's shakiness. Exactly. And they're not all going to give him to Bijan. I'm sure they're not going to want to run Bijan into the ground his first season. So expect Algier to get involved quite a bit. Deuce Vaughn. Deuce Vaughn could be a very good handcuff this year because they only got Tony Pollard that I know of. Deuce Vaughn's got shakiness. Kind of reminds me of Darren Sproles a little bit. Explosive, can hit the home run. Got a lot of wiggle in the open fields, hard to tackle. Could be a good handcuff. Don't know if Tony Pollard's going to be able to stay healthy for a full season. It's not really built like that bell cow running back. And you know now, McCarthy, I think, is calling plays. He likes to run the ball. I expect to see Deuce Vaughn probably get some opportunities to make some noise. Potentially a good handcuff. Could be a possible flex play, depending on what Dallas does this year. Not really sure. Let's see. Who else I got up in here? Kenny Gainwell. Like I said, if you were to draft one of these Eagles running backs, Kenny Gainwell is the one I'm taking just because of the potential value you can get in the later rounds. Reports are he's been getting most of the first team reps. Eagles have probably the best offensive line in the league. Kenny's got receiving ability, and he really started to come on the end of last season. He got trusted to tote the rock more than Miles Sanders in the Super Bowl. So that's saying a lot. Jalen's got trust in him. The coaching staff has trust in him. You can line him out wide in the slot, get some receiving out of him. He knows the system the most out of all the other running backs. So if Kenny, the first couple weeks, was to be the starter, do not be surprised. But as I'm saying, his current ADP right now is running back 50, 182 overall. Get him in like your 10th, 11th, 12th rounds. That could be a very good pickup, especially if Swift, Penny go down. Penny's more than likely going to go down at some point. They're probably going to limit his touches. Kenny G has the potential to pop off and could possibly, who knows, pop into a top 20 running back play, depending on how the Birds utilize their running backs this year. We don't know. Let's see. Got any other big ones? That's about it, folks. Other than that, you got your players like Gus Edwards, Elijah Mitchell as a handcuff if McCaffrey goes down. But Niners also loved Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell helped me win one of my fantasy championships 2 years ago. He's a player you're looking at. The Washington Commanders backfield, I don't know what's going on. I know Rivera isn't the biggest Antonio Gibson fan. Brian Robinson, the longer he went on, the better he started to look. I think the Commanders might have okay QB play this year. They might run the ball a little bit more. Now that Terry McLaurin's hurt, maybe they utilize their running backs more. I'm not sure who to pick. A lot of people got Robinson and Gibson back-to-back, running back 34 and 35, respectively 103 and 113. It's more trust in Robinson because Rivera likes Robinson more than Gibson. Thought for sure Gibson was going to get traded a few years ago. Zach Charbonnet, that's another backfield I'm avoiding. Avoid the Seahawks backfield. Have no clue what's going to go on. Kenneth Walker was a stud last year. Pete Carroll loves to run the ball, and then they draft Zach Charbonnet. And Seattle running backs tend to get injured because of how much they get used, and they like to run in between the tackles a lot. We'll see. It could be a potential good handcuff. No way. Did Jonathan Taylor get traded to Dallas? Are you kidding me? Is this breaking news on the first episode? No way. Giovanni, what's up, brother? Everybody say hi to my boy Gio and Joe. Appreciate y'all tuning in. But did Jonathan Taylor really get traded to Dallas, man? As an Eagles fan, I absolutely hate that, if that's true. Oh my goodness, folks. That just completely changes everything. Oh, nobody should. I was about to say, Joe coming in here, bringing the heat. I'm hoping he's not. No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think. Honestly, JT would do good there. But I don't know. I think Jerry isn't going to want to pay another running back after what he just had to go through with Zeke. So I don't know. No. Man, Joe had me freaking out for a second. But yeah, and the Dolphins backfield. Let's get the Dolphins backfield too. I have no clue what's going on there. He has not been traded. Okay, I was about to say, I haven't seen anything on my phone, but that would have been crazy. It's probably going to happen like Monday or Tuesday before the deadline happens, you know. Joseph coming in saying, hear me out, Pollard isn't that guy. I would love for him not to be that guy because I want to see Dallas struggle. Song would be nice. Picked him up in keeper draft. Hey, that could be good. I think after this season, Pollard's gone anyway, so who knows what's going to happen in Dallas. But yeah, I would not be shocked if Pollard doesn't pan out, but the opportunity without Zeke there, they don't really have a short yardage back right now. I think he's going to get plenty of opportunities fantasy-wise, especially in PPR formats. Probably going to be just fine. But yeah, other than that, folks, Jamal Williams we got there as a potential late-round pickup. Alvin Kamara suspended, 4 to 6 games, something like that. I don't know what's going to go on with the Saints, to be honest. They brought in Kareem Hunt, which I thought was a smart move for them to bring in Kareem. Kind of forgot they had Jamal Williams at the time, but Jamal Williams could be that Mark Ingram type role. Get you short yardage, goal line carries. He does offer a little bit in the receiving aspect, too. Lions are going to be one of the best teams in the NFL, says Gio. I agree with that. Especially with how weak the NFC is. I have the Lions in part of my parlays. So, I agree. JT is who's used to be a solid back. Power won't be. That's getting 20. No, I agree with that. One is careers. I could see that. There has a lot of people did say that Dallas should go and get JT. I don't want him there. Don't need that competition, especially with the way the Eagles linebacker situation is. Don't know how we're going to be against the run this year. No, thank you. But yeah, folks, we're actually coming up on the 40-minute mark. Interesting. I did not think this would last that long. I was a little nervous I was going to be short for a first episode. But yeah, that's all I basically got for the running back situation. Like I said, this year, it's been wild in fantasy. You don't know what you're going to get. This is the first year. I don't want a running back in the first round. I picked number 2 in my one draft out of 12. I'm going wide receiver. I'd rather take the chance on some of those second, third round guys with their potential ceilings compared to like the guys we're used to, like the Derrick Henrys, the Christian McCaffreys, the Austin Ecklers. I get so worried about injuries in fantasy. I overthink it so bad because I have been burned and lost so many seasons of fantasy due to injuries. So I'm a little bit more on edge about it. Drafts are all coming up. Hope you all have fun on your draft weekends. Like I said, avoid some of these backfields. Don't know what's going to happen with JT. We'll see what happens, though. Going forward, next week, plan on doing an episode about the wide receivers. Wide receivers is a lot more fun to get into because the wide receivers these last few seasons have been so deep. There are so many good options in your mid-rounds you can get that are going to produce. Wide receiver this year, like I said, first time since the year 2000, unanimous decision was wide receiver to be the first pick off the draft board in fantasy. That's wild, folks. 23 years. That's just insane. Hey, running backs, you may not be valued in the real life of football on your teams, but us fantasy drafters, we value all so much. But as I said, next week we'll have the wide receiver episode. And then as the season progresses week by week, we will do a weekly recap of the games throughout the year. Talk about some winners, some losers, fantasy wise. What your draft strategy, or not draft strategy, what your lineup strategy should be going forward. And I'm also going to introduce a little segment we're going to call the player parlay picks, where I'm going to go through a few parlay picks I like, some player statistics that we like to see for the week, and we'll just go ahead and give you maybe one or two legs or a parlay you could build off of and hopefully win some money this year. So appreciate y'all for tuning in. If you like this content, be sure you subscribe. YouTube at Kota's Cove, Twitch, Kota's Cove. Follow me on Twitter, Kota's Cove. This is also going to be released on wherever you can find podcasts. So we're going to try to get on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just trying to build a little community around fantasy football. We all love football. We all love fantasy. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Gio. Appreciate this. Hope you all enjoyed it. This was the first time I've ever done this. I'm so nervous to start. Had a lot of fun. We'll continue to get better and improve the show as we go on. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. And let's get ready for some football, baby.